Okay, guys, again, this will be the last thing we do today. So I'm just going to, let's look at the chart, from yesterday. And just to kind of get the ball rolling, we've got the fiscal provisions that, B&T sent to us, and then we've got a separate policy provision section. So on the chart, you've got all of page 1, and then you've got the economic downturn contingencies on the top of page 2. Okay, everybody sees that? So I would like to entertain at least a motion to move favorable on the fiscal provisions alone. And of course, if anybody wants to separate, and this is going to be true of everything else, if you want to separate out any part of this chart, like when we get into the policy ones, we'll take them up, we'll vote them. Yes, Senator Washington, I'm just trying to make this as straightforward as possible. And then later, let me just finish, then when we're done with that, however we come down, then we'll take up, the Washington, Galleon, all those we'll take up separately that are in the packet, amendments. So, but right now, we have to work through this chart. So yes, Senator Washington?
I'm going to work through the bill, but
Okay.
it's referencing the chart.
Either way.
Okay. So in terms of the economic downturn portions, so, so that's the new section. And, it seems like it repeats a couple times, different scenarios. It would be Bill page 4.
So that's the B&T amendments. These
What
are
is
only
the
the
bill?
B&T amendments. You had a separate reprint that I emailed to you that had only the funding amendments in it. Not the
Correct.
policy.
I'm trying to distinguish. I want to yield back to you. I just want to make sure everybody's clear that we've got the fiscal provisions, which are on that chart, and then separately the policy issues. So you've identified, Senator Washington's identified the economic downturn contingencies, which
Right. So,
which is on the chart is on that top of the page 2, that language.
right. Yeah. So on the policy version, if you're trying to follow along, that would also be on page 4. And then there's a section that says 513. That would be the version that we have. So what's omitted is a new section, 5-210. Okay, so it's it's from this page 4, and so it's coming right before 5-213. So in that section, it was described, it talked about, I guess it's dealing with the unknown and not requiring us to have to go back into session, et cetera. That's what I'm assuming. But B says, it talks about a general fund estimate, and that the general fund revenues by the Board of Revenue Estimates, it talks about that. And we get these revenue estimates. And if the revenue estimates are, more than below a certain amount, then it says that the per pupil formula won't increase. Okay, right. So for me, and I guess I'll raise it, and I guess what would be if we have amendments, because this, to me, this is the whole bill, so I don't understand the
When you say the whole
distinction.
bill, what do you mean by the whole?
Well, I mean, for me, Senate Bill 429 is Senate Bill, 429. So when I look at certain sections, but that it does have impact on some of the policy stuff. So this is one where it's saying that for fiscal years 2026 and each fiscal year thereafter, that this will be in place. So it means for forever, there will be a inability to raise any kind of in the formula or anything, if these conditions.
And because I think Stacy doesn't concur with your description of that.
Oh, that would be great
So
if you
that's
could do
why.
that.
So what these provisions
I didn't know
do
if I could
is say that if if the revenue estimates come in, it's more than 3.75% below the March general fund estimate, when they introduce the budget,
Right.
there can be no increase
Right.
in the per pupil formula funding. It doesn't
Right.
mean that the legislature can't make changes to the budget once it gets there, just that the governor must introduce it at 0% increase, if only those numbers
Okay.
are met.
Okay, so I understand that. So I wondered, so the first part of it is that this is a situation that is 2026 thereafter. Whereas in in B and C and A, it stops at 2029. So I was thinking, why is this the situation forever when we should just end it with the rest of the, consistent with the rest? So I just wondered what the reason.
One involves only federal funds.
Okay,
My assumption is, and I don't know for certain, because Erica's not here and I can't help with that, is that there's some concern with the current administration and monies, and so the federal fund one is held to the years that there's concern about,
and then this first one is?
and the other one is combined. The one you see in 5-211.1 is combined state funds and federal funds.
Okay.
So because the federal is included in that, it's included in the limited number of years.
Okay, so I guess my other question is, it's saying that you can't increase it. Does that also mean that you can't reduce it?
Says the governor.
Right, the governor.
Budget bill
No, I
has
understand.
introduced.
I
Anything about the
I
legislature.
understand. So we have made provisions for the governors to not fund things less or more than or up to. So with this provision, it's saying you can't increase it, but it doesn't say anything about decreasing it farther, past the 0%. So I wondered if an amendment that would just say you keep it stable.
Can I
if that's-
just interject? Okay, so this is specifically the vote of the B&T Committee on the fiscal issues.
right.
They are not, look, we have latitude on the policy stuff here. They are not going to accept us messing around with the positions on these items on the fiscal. They're just going to reject them when we send it back to them. And of course, then there's a conference committee. But I'm not suggesting, we can do whatever, but I'm just telling you in terms of like, as a practical matter, they sent us the fiscal and they're leaving it up to us to deal with all the policy stuff. And so you can offer an amendment to make some change, but,
Well,
if we do that and we send it back, I'm pretty confident.
Yeah,
Right, it's-
I did not include these.
It comes back to us, and then it has to go back to them.
Okay,
I
Senator
did not
Washington.
include these in the amendments that I've offered committee. But given that we were briefed on this and I had an opportunity to review it, I had wanted to raise some concerns about that, that language. So, okay, so that's what I'm doing there.
Okay. Any other discussion about just looking again at the chart, the items on the amendments the fiscal amendments put on by the Budget and Tax Committee? And, I don't know process-wise, other than to say what I just said, because if we send it back with then it's going to come back to us, and then, I don't know where that takes us with the broader bill or no conference committee or anything like that. So, Senator Washington, I don't know what to say.
But for
Yeah.
example, we don't know, some of the policy things could have implications on what formulas.
Well, you can, at the end of the day, you can vote against the bill
Well, that's not.
or offer an amendment. I mean, that's what, you offered amendments. You can offer amendments. You can do a lot of options. One is maybe, okay, what do you?
I would like to have a discussion, an open discussion with my colleagues about what is in a very important bill, that it's significant policy for the educational future in our state and all of our of our state. And I can't accept that I'm not being able to, as a senator, to ask questions about a portion of a bill.
Well, you
As a
did.
part of the discussion,
You did
right?
ask the
So-
question, and your interpretation was, I think Stacy did a good job of responding. But look, I'm not trying to jam anything, but I'm just giving you
Okay,
like the real
policy
world.
Okay, I'll phrase it as a policy. The policy question that I was interested in with regard to the 0% is that, would it be our policy? Yes, okay, we don't want to increase because we certainly want to say, look, we don't have the money, we don't want to increase. But do we want to have as a part of the policy of how this gets done that we say, which is what we've done, you hold harmless, or, simply saying that we don't reduce it. That, to me, that was what I was just putting out as something for us to consider. Because certainly, if the governor chose to put in much less than what we had anticipated, then that would surely impact the ability of our locals to implement the legislation. So that's why
I think I have an
put
answer
that
to
in
what
there.
you're saying here.
Thank you.
So this is mandated funding. It's in the law. They have to fund it at a certain level. What they're saying is that if the budget comes in at these numbers, they just can't fund the increase, but they still have to fund it at the level that's required by law. So that's not a decrease, that's just not an increase.
And then that answered my question. Okay. So if I was able to kind of go through it. And then in terms of the thereafter, we're saying that in perpetuity, this will be the situation because it has to do with what, just federal?
So the provision you're looking at is the contingency that was in the original blueprint bill. They're just codifying it. It was an uncodified language. So it was in perpetuity. They're just putting it in statute, so it's a lot more easily found. And again, that's the provision that only deals with state funds, not the federal funds or the combined funds.
Great. That's very helpful. Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Just any additional questions just about the fiscal provisions that were passed out of the V&T committee to this committee? Questions, comments? Motion just on those provisions? Yes, Senator Gallion. Okay, we'll take your question. We have a favorable motion from Senator Augustine.
Just one.
On the fiscal.
Just on the fiscal. Is there a second from Senator Attar on the second? Okay, now Senator Gallion, just on the fiscal stuff.
Sure. Before we get into going through all the amendments that different members have, I know we're the policy committee, we've heard that a lot, but the dollars and cents in the policy are joined. So if something changes a number and we send it back, numbers can be moved around. So if we have to phrase everything as policy, that's fine, and it is, but I think it's important, these are connected because everything has a cost or a savings to it.
Essence, yes, but it's also no, because again, these are mandated amounts. They're funding formulas. So all these programs have to be funded as it's stated in there. Even if you take out another program that's offered in this bill, that's not funded through the formula.
I understand that.
Some of this is in the budget and other parts, but it's not funded through the formula.
But when B&T approved new policy with new amounts of money on top of that, that's separate, correct?
No, they didn't approve any policies. They looked at the funding formulas, and then they made changes.
we'll discuss it more when we go through
The
the
only
amendments.
thing that got changed was the collaborative time, because that was built into the foundation formula. When they paused that, the decrease you see in the foundation amounts is the reduction of the collaborative time that was built into the formula. That's why it's lower when you see that amount.
I guess one other thing that came up, I think yesterday, was about new initiatives. We have to, take care of the old ones. That did come up. Stacy, correct me if I'm wrong, but almost all of that stuff all the new programs, they're creating in law new programs, but they're not mandating any funding. It's going to be may and shall be subject to appropriation by the governor in the future. So I think that we got a little off yesterday about all these new programs, but I'll just put that out there as part of the discussion as well. Senator Hester?
We had this conversation earlier that there is a may instead of a shall. There is $17 million in this year's budget for a big new program. So, I mean, no, I think
Academic excellence.
for the academic excellence, and I don't know what the values are for the other ones, but there is money for new programs in the budget, regardless of,
Yeah, there's 72 million total.
Okay, well, we do have, again, just on the fiscal, yes, Senator Gallion.
Should we list them, the new programs and their amounts? I have them real easily here if you want to, and you can tell me.
Do you want to get to the policy stuff before you list them?
Well, let's get past this memo. That's not,
I think that may go more to the other part of the equation here. So, okay, again, everybody got free vote here. This is simply a motion, and then there was a second on the fiscal provisions that were passed by the Budget and Tax Committee. And on your chart, again, page 1 and the top of page 2. That's all we're voting on here. Do I need a roll call? You tell me. Okay, let's do, you want to do a roll call on this one, Lamori? Let's do a roll call. I don't want to jam anybody here.
All right. Senator Kagan?
Aye.
Senator Kagan, yes. Senator Augustine? Yes. Senator Augustine, yes. Senator Gallion?
No.
Senator Gallion, no. Senator Watson?
Yes.
Senator Watson, yes. Senator Attar? Senator Attar, yes. Senator Brooks?
Yes.
Senator Brooks, yes. Senator Carozza?
yes.
Senator Carozza, yes. Senator Hester? Yes. Senator Hester, yes. Senator Washington? Yes. Senator Washington, yes. Senator Feldman?
Yes, that motion carries 10 to 1. 9 to 1. Okay, let's now tackle the policy provisions that are in the chart. And I'll just put it out there at the beginning before I entertain any kind of motions on the right column Senate amendments. Who would like to pull out, is there any specific item here on, and just, let's take some time, everybody refresh their memory, what's in the chart here, starting in the middle of page 2 through the end, pull out something here on the Senate amendment side of things, the proposed Senate amendment column that they'd like to discuss, separately vote. Take your time. I don't want to rush anybody here. Yeah, questions. Vice Chair Kagan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On page 2, under community schools, I just have a very quick question about the transparency. In column 1, the governor had the report becoming publicly available, Stacy. It looks like it is transmitted to AIB and the Maryland General Assembly, but it doesn't say specifically that it's going to be posted online and be made publicly available.
It is. So if you look at page 14 and line 9
Oh, okay.
of your reprint,
Of the bill.
the department is to make it publicly available.
Great, thank you. Done.
Okay, additional questions on, again, anything on that right-hand column? Senator Washington.
Could we, when we're going through the sections, could we refer to the part of the legislation? My notes are in the bill. So whatever section, if we could also say what page it is in the legislation, that would be helpful.
Okay, but I mean, just the description, I mean, it would be helpful for Stacy to go to a section in the reprint if we knew what topic you're
So
looking
the
at.
pages in the reprint are listed in the chart.
Like, if you look at the chart, do you have the chart? We can get you another chart. Do we have another chart? Here. Can somebody give Mary another?
Like this?
Because on the chart, there's a page reference to each one of the items.
Clarification.
Yes.
So if we pull an item out, it would be, what we're voting on is the Senate amendments.
Correct. We're
So-
taking up, right
Okay.
now, we haven't had a motion on the Senate amendments, but in anticipation, okay, well, here's what I maybe, would somebody want to just put it on the table? Yeah, so the Senate amendments in the right-hand column are what we are now taking up the policy call. And so you could take out, separate out any description, and then, again, the chart has a reference to page number. Senator Hester.
I'm really sorry, Mr. Chair.
Sure.
I have questions on these 40%.
That's fine. I'm just asking if you could delineate, like, could we just go through? I mean, I identify 15 separate little sections here. So if you say there's 8 or 9, we can, I mean, I hate to put it on you, but that's kind of where we're at right now.
Or should we vote
you want to take it one at a time?
And then we know what the description is, and then we go
Okay, guys, well, if you have 40%, Senator Hester, if you, okay, let's go one by one. Okay, guys, I think we've decided we're just going to go one by one through the policy provisions, okay? And then we'll have a discussion, we'll take separate votes, and we're taking up again each, yeah.
Mr. Chair, I was confused on that previous vote, and since it doesn't change the outcome, can I switch to a yes on that?
Sure, that makes it a unanimous vote, that would be great.
Thank
You
you.
got that, Lamourie? On the fiscal. Okay,
Watson
thank
got
you with an assist from Senator Watson. Okay, so let's just do it one at a time, and we'll take a motion favorable or otherwise on each one of these items. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so Stacy, let's just go through the community schools section. That will be one self-contained vote.
Okay, if you're looking on page 12 of the reprint, it may help here. So the Senate amendments make some changes to the governor's plan where it requires if a local school system has 10 eligible schools or 36% of local schools are eligible, then the county board may, on behalf of the eligible schools, expend no more than 50% of the funds distributed for the program, provided the plan is developed in consultation with eligible schools to ensure the requirements of the law regarding community schools are met. The House had added amendment in their bill that a county board that expends funds have on behalf of eligible schools in the county shall provide to each eligible school an itemized list of the services provided and the amount of funding spent on each service. The proposed Senate amendment is accept that report.
Okay, discussion on that specific issue.
Just real quick, so is it 36 or 35%?
It's 35. I had it in my notes wrong. I apologize. I
okay,
keep saying it
got
wrong,
it.
but it is in fact 35%. So the purpose of having 10 eligible schools or 35% is because for smaller counties, they may only have 3 eligible schools, but it might be 35%. And in that way, those counties can take advantage of this spending on behalf of them to get a broader array of goods and services. That is the purpose of that particular amendment.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, let's see if Senator Washington come back in here. Is there a motion favorable just on that specific section? Okay, Senator Watson moves favorable. A second from Senator Attar. Okay, all in favor of that particular amendment, raise your hand from the Senate. Raise your hand. All opposed? That motion carries unanimously. Okay, Stacy, let's move to the minimum school funding. Is that next on your list?
I
Or
think
not?
there was a couple other things in there they wanted to look at.
Okay.
So on that page 13 and 14 was that transparency provision that Vice Chair Kagan had just referenced. Again, it just made some slight changes that essentially the department would summarize the results of the community schools finding report, transmit it to AIB instead of the final report going to just AIB, then submit it to the General Assembly, and then publicly make it available on the website.
Okay, questions on that specific provision? Okay, is there a motion? Motion favorable from Vice Chair Kagan, Senator from Senator Augustine. Second, discussion? All in favor of that provision, that Senate amendment, raise your hand. All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Next up, Stacy.
The next part of the community schools provision is starting on page 26 of the reprint, and it flows through page 27. There's a slight change in the definition of wraparound services. It adds offering evidence-based in-school and in-person tutoring provided during the school day as one of the examples of what wraparound services can be. Page 26 and 27 on your reprint.
Just a question on the
Yes, Senator Hester.
on the in-person tutoring. This does not include or exclude explicitly having an AI tutor, does it?
Does not.
Okay, thank you.
Any additional questions for Stacy on this specific Senate amendment? Okay, is there a motion? Okay, Vice Chair Kagan moves favorable, second from Senator Attar. All in favor of that particular Senate amendment, raise your hand. All opposed? Carries unanimously. Stacy?
Okay, the last part of the community schools provisions is the part with the biggest disagreement with the House. The bill is introduced, allowed for countywide implementation plans. The Senate proposed amendments adopts the House's provision that requires a review of the implementation plans and the goals related to those plans at least every 2 years instead of annually. And it keeps the fund withholding language that was introduced in the bill, which authorizes the department to withhold funds for non-compliance with the implementation plans. So this would allow countywide community school implementation plans that have to be reviewed at least every 2 years. There must be measurable goals. They must be reviewed at least every 2 years, and the department could withhold funding for non-compliance. Those are the Senate amendments.
As opposed to 1 year on the House side?
Annually is introduced by the governor. The House changed it to at least once every 2 years. Proposed Senate amendments would adopt that House version of that.
Okay, Senator Gallion, questions?
The House struck the withholding language and the Senate keeps it, yes.
So the rationale on going from 1 year, like in the governor's bill, to 2, what, is it that hard to get this every year, and it's a lot of work, and that's why they wanted to
They
push it
are a
out?
lot of work to put these needs assessments together and check the goals. And so the thinking is to give them every 2 years to make sure that the plans get implemented.
Additional questions? Senator Hester?
So just maybe the countywide community school implementation plan, is that like one plan for the county with multiple county schools? Like, did the schools not do their own planning anymore?
I think Mike Thomas can answer that question. He's here.
Yeah, actually, Mike, why don't you come up, and by the way, we have MSD here in the House today. I know yesterday that came up. Is Maryland State Department of Education here? Yeah, why don't you just come up to the table? I think that'd be helpful. Some questions emerge. I think that's. Yeah, I'm not sure who else.
AIB is here.
AIB is here as well. Do you want me to bring them up, or? Okay, AIB here. Why don't you come back up? You were here yesterday. And, just here for questions. We're not having a bill hearing here, but Mike, did you hear the question that was presented? Maybe you could shed a little light.
Yes. Mike, for the record, Mike Thomas, Governor's Legislative Officer. Seems to be a habit in my hearings. This does not preclude them from doing countywide implementation plans right now, in our view, without the requirement that they do a countywide implementation plan. You may have each of your individual schools doing their own thing. With the increase in shared services flexibility, we would like to see more of a countywide organization to make sure that we're all kind of rowing in the same boats, to say, the county can identify that, 10 of my 15 schools are saying we need tutoring services, so next year that's where we provide more services. Other LEAs that have more community schools, it gets harder and harder to understand what each one is doing, but that's why we want to have the local community schools will be able to report up to the county and help drive that community plan. But it's not entirely, our vision is like it wouldn't be entirely driven by the state board, by the local board.
Okay, Senator Caruso.
Just to comment on that as on the countywide level, as I understand that would also, from talking to my superintendent in Wycomico County, that would strengthen the partnerships outside of the one school. So, if there's partners that can help several community schools, and so that would be the value then at the county level.
That's our vision.
Okay.
And we've seen exactly that take place in places where the counties develop a strategy. The other rationale for this
Before we go any further, tell us who you are.
So sorry.
Yeah.
I'm Alex Rees. I'm the Chief of Staff representing Dr. Wright today. We project over 700 community schools next year as well. Over 50% of all schools in the state. And so with that, with a team of 2 or so people reviewing that many individual school plans, we feel that it would be far more useful and we'd be better positioned to support schools if they are articulating a countywide strategy.
Any additional questions? Okay. Was there a motion on this section? I can't. Okay, Senator Carrozza moves this section favorable. Is there a second? Second from Senator Attar. Okay. On the Senate amendments, all in favor, raise your hand. All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Stacy?
So minimum school funding, you can find this starting on page 15 of your reprint. What this does is adds to the list of reasons that a local school system can request a waiver from the minimum school funding provisions, and it adds aggregated reporting for school funding. Instead of by blueprint bucket, it allows the school systems to report in the aggregate by school.
Questions for Stacy or for some of our panelists? Okay. Motion? Motion? Favorable motion from Senator Tarr, second from Senator Augustine. All in favor of this minimum school funding Senate amendment, raise your hand. All opposed, that motion carries unanimously.
Okay. The next is the Collaborative Time Innovation Demonstration Grant. So this is the part where the funding for the collaborative time was paused for 4 years. So that implementation would begin 4 years from now. In the absence of that collaborative time requirement, the administration added in the bill funds to establish a replicable, innovative models for teacher collaboration at school or local school system level to improve teacher retention and student learning. The Senate amendments did not make changes to this part of the bill.
Okay, questions? Yeah.
So this is the one that has the, it's like $48 million over 4 years, something like that. Instead of doing this, why wouldn't we just give back some of the foundation cut for the implementation of collaborative time? Why is it being done this way?
Because we don't have enough teachers to implement the collaborative time appropriately. So the thought is, as you continue to grow your own teachers, as you incentivize more teachers to come to the state, as you get more teachers, then you can start to implement the collaborative time in the way that it's envisioned under the blueprint.
Okay, additional question, Senator Gallion, additional follow-up?
Oh,
Okay, that's the theory. That's, any additional? Okay. Is there a motion?
There isn't, there's no change.
That's true, there's no amendment. Me
Just
bad.
explaining it.
Thank you. Parliament, it's good to have a second pair of hands. Thank you very much.
So we'll just
Okay,
explain it, and then we'll go. The school
Yeah.
leadership program, again, it's in 2 parts, the School System Leadership Training Program and the Maryland School Leadership Academy. The Senate amendments make no change to that offered.
okay, questions? Okay, this is another no change.
Okay. Next, on pages 22 and 23 is the National Teacher Recruitment Campaign, and the purpose is to bring licensed and prospective teachers to the state. The Senate amendments propose no changes.
Okay, questions? Yes, Senator Gallion.
So when we're saying no changes, we're saying no changes to the governor's bill.
Correct.
This is a change to, a policy change, having this, and it has a cost of like 2.1 million over 4 years. So this is another thing that would constitute new spending in a way.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, yes, Senator Watson?
Yeah, quick question, Stacey. Does this roll up, we had a bill that talked about teacher certification reciprocity, I think. Does this roll that up where a teacher from another state who's received certification there can come here and not have to go through our certification process?
No,
It does not do that?
No.
Okay.
it's just a recruitment campaign going out to seek other teachers to see if they will come to Maryland.
And go through our whole process?
Well, there are, a teacher who comes in that has an existing license or credential from another state, there is a process in place for them. It's a lesser process than our existing process, and MSD is shaking their head, so
Okay.
assuming that's correct.
Okay, Stacy?
The next is the career ladder collaboration time. Oh, I apologize. The Maryland Teacher Relocation Incentive Grant. Again, this is a 2,000 incentive grant with a two-year teaching commitment. The House had made a change to the focus to incentivize teachers to come to Maryland instead of a reimbursement to partially offset the cost of the move and make it a 3-year commitment. And the Senate is accepting those House amendments.
See, if you combine.
Senator Hester.
Sorry, thank you. If you combine the National Teacher Recruitment Campaign, so you would recruit the teachers and then you would give them the incentive for the housing?
Well, they're technically two separate programs.
But they're both for out-of-state teachers?
Yes.
And so how much is each one? I'm just curious.
The total spend that we would have for the teacher recruitment campaign would be $2 million over 4 years. And then our total spend for the relocation programs would be $4 million over 2 years. But we expect the funding to be exhausted by the time we get to FY29. So we would spend it over 3.
And if I might, so if an existing if somebody in the state wants to become a teacher, when they need to move to become a teacher, can they apply for this as well?
This would be for out-of-state, the program is intended as made for out-of-state teachers. We have other initiatives like the Grow Your Own program where we intend to help individuals that are currently living in their own communities kind of become teachers.
And how much is that?
For the Grow Your Own programs?
Yeah.
We would spend, we propose $34.5 million per year over that.
Okay.
The House reduced funding for that when they put their budget through. But I don't know the number off the top of my head that the House put in their budget for the Grow Your Own program.
You don't know the number?
Not off the top of my head.
Okay.
Put your mic on, Jason. Yeah.
I had that page somewhere, it got cut from like 33 million to 19 million? Does that sound accurate?
Yeah, it was the DLS recommendation to reduce the funding. That's what they reduced it to, is the DLS recommendation.
Okay, well, on this one, on this one, these are House amendments. We will have to take a vote to adopt the House amendment. Okay, Senator Augustine moves the House amendments. Is there a second? Senator Tarr is a second. Discussion. Okay, all in favor of adopting those House amendments, raise your hand on the teacher. The teacher relocation incentive grant. Yeah, the other one had no changes. So. Okay, this is specifically on the Maryland Teacher Relocation Incentive Grant. Okay, all in favor, raise your hand. All opposed, motion carries unanimously. Oh, I'm sorry, that is a 10-to-1 vote, Lamoria. Undissenting vote from Senator Gallion. Yeah, absolutely. I'm sorry.
Don't we already have
9-1 vote.
teacher relocation incentive grants? I remember we used to do cash for keys. We would literally do anything we could to lure teachers here with some kind of monetary assistance trying to find housing, all of those things. Does this need to be explicitly called out? Aren't we doing this already, or is this new?
To my knowledge, there's not an existing teacher relocation incentive program. There may very well be incentive programs for other vocations or other professions, but we don't know of any other active.
Okay. 'Cause I knew we tried that in Prince George's County,
Okay.
but we still had the pipeline issue. So, all right, thank you.
Okay, any additional questions at this time? Okay, Stacey. On this section, yeah. Okay, we'll move to career ladder collaboration time.
As previously mentioned, the Career Ladder collaboration time, it pauses the start of the 8-year phase-in to begin in 29 versus in 25. The House amendments had just pushed it back 1 year to 26. The Senate would propose, let me start again. The Senate proposed amendments are to make no changes to the governor's proposal. And they said it would save $759 million over 4 years. That was the number given. So there's no motion, but it's a.
Okay, questions just on this no change position in the Senate from the governor's bill?
Okay.
Okay, let's move on.
The Academic Excellence Program. So the purpose of this program is to provide targeted, individualized teacher coaching and professional development support. They're hired at the MSD level, but they exist in the schools. The local school system elects to participate. They are not required. In fiscal years 26 and 27, the focus is on elementary schools and literacy plans, and it adds a special fund. The House amendments have moved this to a different subtitle, and they made a robust changes to the framework of the program. So this proposed Senate amendments would accept the move to a different subtitle, and there's just some slight programmatic changes in the language from the House amendments.
Okay, any questions? Senator Gallion.
So this is the one that got a good bit of discussion yesterday. It's $200 million over and above the blueprint over the next 4 years, right? And
I don't know about the
isn't that
funding.
correct? No, 17 just next year.
So, Senator, we have revised kind of the total 4-year number, so it's down to 170 over 4 years. That's what our proposal is. But you're correct, it's $17 million in the first year.
Okay, and then this kind of ties into the next one. I noticed, the Grow Your Own program, I look back and that passed unanimously in the Senate, I believe, last year, the Grow Your Own.
So I believe that started in the governor's first term. It was part of his education bill, and that was introduced and added by the House, yes.
Okay.
So.
The reason I'm asking, this is, you said 170-some million dollars above and beyond the blueprint that's going to be going to a new program when we're already having all these budget issues. Now, I'm going to just talk policy. I wouldn't mind seeing, instead of that 17 million, move it over and restore the Grow Your Own funding. I mean, this is maybe something on the fly. That's something I know. I voted for that last year, but I don't know. I just have a real issue with, in the shape we're in, and we know it's going to be ongoing, to have $170-some million in new going on top of already our obligations. And I believe it does trickle down and affect the LEAs at some point with this too. So that's just my thoughts on that. So I would not be supportive of this. But if somebody had an amendment that moved some of that funding to get the Grow Your Own at the full level, I'd be okay with that.
Okay, Senator Hester.
I mean, we do have the department here today. I mean, I don't feel like, this feels like a bill in and of itself, but can you describe the benefit and the size? So it's 17 million the first year to 170 over 4 years? I mean, it feels like we should have a bill hearing on that. But go ahead, Ed.
Yeah, well, I'll just kick us off, and then I'll pass it to Dr. Brown. Superintendent Wright wanted to be here today at our State Board of Education meeting today. I think if she were to speak on the program that she believes as part of this package that would have the greatest impact on student achievement and on teacher retention, it would be the Academic Excellence Program. And I'll let Dr. Brown speak to the specifics of your question.
We see this program as Dr. Elise Brown, Assistant State Superintendent of Instructional Programs and Services at MSDE. So we do see this program as one that really enhances our teacher skills by providing in-depth coaching, going beyond what they would get in an educator preparation program or a Grow Your Own program. This is giving relevant experience, on-the-spot, job-embedded support to our teachers to really address the needs that they have in the classroom in the moment, on the spot. Yes.
So in the bill, we talk about the academic excellence program, which is on 25-1, right? But then on page 18 of this write-up, we talk about school leadership training programs, 2 each. School leadership training programs talk about, you know, to the extent practical, job embedded to allow for application of knowledge techniques. And then the academic excellence program talks about, I don't know how to describe this, line II, access to high quality job embedded and targeted professional learning opportunities. Is this duplicative, or these are 3 separate training related programs embedded in this bill? You understand where I'm at?
Absolutely.
It looks a little duplicative. Maybe it's not, maybe I just honed in because I recognize job embedded. Yep. But are they 3 distinctly unique programs with different goals and objectives?
They are. So the Academic Excellence Program seeks to to implement statewide teacher coaching and additional professional learning for teachers and other school-based professionals. The School Leadership Academy would focus on school leaders. We know that the school leader in a building's effectiveness is one of the #1 predictors of whether or not teachers stay in that building. And so we want to build up our bench of school leaders. The program would be for aspiring and sitting school leaders, and it would include a mentorship component so we can have our highly effective principals mentoring our novice or aspiring principals. So they are distinct programs. Yes.
Thanks for the clarification.
Okay, any additional questions for any of the panel? Senator Hester.
Mr. Chair, I struggle with this. I mean, it might be a good idea, but when we passed the Blueprint for Maryland's Future, we've done 3 years of research, and you know, on what we were doing, and this may work or it may not work, but it's $17 million going to 170 over 4 years. I mean, I would proffer that we should get some results at the end of 1 year or 2 year and then make an adjustment. Furthermore, so that we're gonna hire 803 coaches. So, and no, we're not gonna, I mean, I'm looking at a chart that says 803 coaches.
803 is the number of coaches that we currently see that sit with the LEAs. Through this program, we would build to 200 coaches in year 4 of 4.
So we've got 803 coaches.
Yes.
And we want 200 more.
Correct.
Why does that cost $170 million?
And Senator,
I mean,
that
sign
is
me up.
And Senator, that is the 4-year total for the program. It's not like what we spend in year 4.
So how much are these coaches making annually?
It's 125 is the base salary, I believe was the assumption. So the idea with
That's
this.
crazy. I mean, because, I mean, first of all, if I'm a teacher, I'm leaving my school to apply to be a coach, because you're going to make twice what you're making already. I mean, we're immediately gonna lose 200 teachers, and we're already short on teachers. Furthermore, I would just say that, like, I just feel like, you know, the penny wise, pound foolish. We have not passed so many bills for 75,000, 100,000. We sat here, Department of Education was up there. They have nobody right now working on artificial intelligence, which is going to determine whether these kids get hired in 2 or 3 years. We don't have guidelines at the local level, so we don't know if we can use AI tutors or not. There's so much, and what about, the collaborative time? Like, you could use, this is just me, but like, there are so many good policy ideas for so less money. And I would rather have the department have like the set of 3 people that they need for this one area of growing importance than 200 coaches when they already have 800. It just doesn't make sense. So I would motion that we make this a pilot program for a year with reporting.
Senator Kagan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Could any of you give us a sense of how many schools the 803 current coaches are able to cover? And, I mean, you must feel like there is a shortfall, and that's why you're recommending 200 more. How many do they each cover, and how many have no one covering them at all?
Thank you for asking that. I actually have a breakdown per district, not by school, but I can tell you that 5 districts have 63% of that 803 number of coaches. So we do not see an equal distribution. We also have 5 districts without coaching in the K-5 area, which is where we would want to target initially. We have 13 districts with no coaches in middle school and 16 districts with no coaches in high school.
And forgive me, just clarifying, when you say district, you mean county?
County, yes, ma'am.
Okay. So 63, is that the highest percentage of coverage? What's the highest and what's the lowest? You say some, that there are 5 with none?
There are 3 counties that have 0 coaches.
0 coaches.
And the average ratio of teachers to coaches across the state is 79 teachers per 1 coach. Best practice would be for a coach to coach a maximum of 12 teachers. And currently the number is 79 teachers to 1
That's
coach.
our problem with social worker, our school counselors, that's our school nurses. I mean, that's our problem with so many different areas. And we are talking right now, in this conversation, we're talking about teachers, not the principals and assistant principals and wannabe principals. So we're just talking about the teachers.
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay, just before we go to
Can
Sarah
you, I'm
August.
sorry, you've got the data. Is that data, I assume, publicly available?
Yeah, we can share.
Yeah.
We can share this.
Could you say publicly then which counties have 0? Is that an appropriate question? I don't want to put you on the spot, but
We
if you've
would
got it
rather
and it is
not.
available publicly. I think that's information that could be useful. I assume it's probably not Montgomery, it's probably not Howard, but it might be in District 38, it might be in Prince George, I don't know where it is.
There's 1 county on the eastern shore, 1 county in western Maryland, and 1 in southern Maryland.
Okay, that have 0. Okay,
Sure. Mary Pat, if you want to sit
Mary
down.
Pat,
Sure.
yeah.
You can have a seat. Well, just to kind of get back.
This is important. I
Okay.
mean, we need our teachers to be
Okay.
effective.
Okay, Senator Kagan.
Sorry.
No, it's okay.
Sorry, I
I just
just
want to
wanna-
put a question on the table for the governor. Okay, so there is money in the budget currently, so I'm just trying to fully play out if we were to do, like, what happens exactly to the money that's in the budget? Can it be reallocated on the floor with a budget from this committee? I'm just trying to explore kind of, the fact is the monies are actually in it for this program, and so what is that implications if we, anything you want to contribute to that? I'm just asking.
I would have to talk with Secretary Grady.
Okay, let's defer on that. Okay, we'll go Sarah Augustine, Sarah Watson, then back to Sarah Hester. Oh, yeah, Mary Pat, I apologize.
Sure, that's okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted to put a little, Mary Pat Fannin from PSAM, Executive Director. I just wanted to answer or clarify something about coaches.
A little closer to the mic.
Sure.
Thanks.
About coaches. So one of the important tenets of the blueprint was that we get more teachers into the classroom, that we move people from central office and from some of our coaching positions. So some of these numbers looked very different 2 and 3 years ago regarding coaches because we moved coaches into the classroom. So I'm not saying that this isn't a valuable program, and I know it's something that has worked for Dr. Wright in Mississippi, but that's why some of those coaching numbers look a little different than they may have a couple years ago, because we made a concerted effort to move coaches into classroom teaching positions.
Okay, one clarifying question from the vice chair, and then we'll go around the horn.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Super briefly, Mary Pat, are you saying then that these coaches still have coaching responsibilities and they're also in the classroom? They're doing kind of both?
So so when we made these, a lot of these, we called them sort of blueprint conversions. So they were coaches that might have been like math coaches in a school, and they moved from that math coach in a school into a classroom. So maybe now they're a middle school, math department head, and they, teach 8th grade algebra or something
And they're
like that.
not coaching other teachers right now?
Correct.
Okay.
Now, and then some kept coaches, but that has been a big move and encouraged by the AIB and MSDE before. So again, not downplaying at all this program, but that is one reason why the numbers might not look the same as they did 4 or 5 years ago.
Thank you.
Okay, just one more clarify. I'm going to throw one clarifying. On the money that's in the budget, okay, just so we're clear, because this idea of a pilot, but in reality, if we roll this out and it's like complete dud, governor can zero out the budget for this next year, right? So isn't it de facto a pilot? Like, is that how you would look at it? I mean, just put it out there.
It's an authorization, so we can
Right.
decide what to do with it,
Okay.
in our budget next year.
Okay, with that clarification, I'm going to go to Senator Augustine.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That was going to be one of the things that I was going to say about it. And then I also just, you all said that Dr. Wright, who is not here, felt that this was the most important policy. Then I just heard that she had some success with this in Mississippi, where they had some, just fantastic results. Can you elaborate on that a little bit? Because I'm not getting the sense that folks are really sort of understanding why this is so important.
So professional learning and coaching are one of the driving factors of teacher efficiency, effectiveness, and student outcomes. The teacher's going to be your biggest bang for your buck in improving student outcomes, followed by your school leader. In Mississippi, a lot of people speak about the policy, the literacy policy driving outcomes, but without the professional learning that came along with it. I'm from Mississippi, if you can't tell by my accent. Those efforts would have just been on paper. The coaching brought it to life. And with us having a literacy policy that we just approved, we also just approved our math policy today. We really are going to need support from coaches to make sure our teachers know what this looks like live in action in the classroom, to also do family community engagement to make sure our parents are supported, and also work with our school leaders in looking at trends that we're seeing across classrooms so that we can support holistic systems.
Okay, so if I can just sort of like recap a little bit of what you said. This program will help the implementation of the other policies that you have identified as being ones that are best practices that work, but they do need the support. People need to be able to understand and be able to execute on those policies, and these coaches can help to do that.
Yes, and I would also say, I know we talk a lot about Mississippi, but other states who have adopted the Mississippi model are also seeing similar results on this past NAEP assessment.
Okay.
And that's an excellent point, Senator, and I just wanted to underscore that because all of these policies are meant to undergird each other, and when the blueprint was rolled out, all of those components were meant to work and to support each other. And so if you're talking about supporting teachers in the classroom, that's also a retention tool, right?
Yeah,
and there's been I just read, and I will try to bring it up, but some research and surveys for teachers of color, in particular, because they were talking about feeling very isolated. They really got into the profession. 40% of them said, it's really not the money. I want to do well for my community. I have gotten here, and I want others to get here too. And there's nothing like creating that community of practice where they're improving and they feel like they're making a difference in children's lives. That's a lot of what keeps teachers in the classroom. So it's a retention program, it is a support program, professional development program, and at the end of the day, it creates outcomes for students.
Thank you, that's very helpful.
Okay, Senator Watson, and then back to Senator Hester.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. So I've seen, in my history dealing with school systems, when they're infused with money, they get top-heavy very, very quick. But rarely have I seen that directly transition into student outcomes. And that's the hesitation that I have. So when you brought up the 200 additional coaches, I think it is, and you want to disperse them throughout, the conversation I first had about the importance of community schools, that they were most impactful in places of poverty in those areas. So there's not really a need to have a community schools all over the state. It's where they make sense to go and where they make the biggest impact. And so now that you've brought up some districts have more coaches than others, now I have to go back and do the math and the correlation to see if more coaches mean there are better outcomes, or do the ones with less coaches not need the coaches because they're performing at higher levels? Can you just speak to that? Because I just want to make sure we have a fair balance. What I really appreciate the senator saying here, we can look at this as a pilot, and I hope the AIB, everything that we agree to is going to have some metrics that if it's not working, we immediately get rid of it, change course. Okay, so can you respond to that?
Yes. I very much appreciate that question. So we do want to target our schools that are in the most need with our coaching programs. All coaching programs are not created equal, which is why while we have 803 coaching system or coaches out there right now, they're not using like coaching models. Training might be different. Their role might not be clearly defined. And so this is an opportunity for us to systemize what coaching looks like. This is an opportunity for us to say, this is what high quality coaching looks like for teachers, and level the playing field, as you were saying, making sure that we are putting the best coaches out there to receive the best results from teachers, regardless of your zip code. We want every student to have access to high quality teachers, and this is a path forward to do that.
And as part of the program,
Yeah,
Can I
here,
just make a
before
little
you,
note for the
yeah, let
committee?
Stacy
Remember,
weigh
the program is always the devil's in the details. And if you look on page 25.1 of your reprint, it says, the department shall prioritize selecting schools with low proficiency rates and declining achievement results in recent years. And within a selected school, they shall work with the department to identify teachers and other educators who will benefit most from coaching and professional development opportunities. So they're really looking to find those teachers that need it the most and target those areas.
Okay, okay, you wanted to weigh in? Yeah.
Just wanted to note that even the LEA coaches that we've mentioned that already exist, as part of this program, they would be rolled into the same training as the statewide coaches. So the idea is that the high quality training, the statewide bar that we would set for what instructional coaching looks like would benefit the 50 up to 200 state coaches and the LEA-based coaches as well. With the career ladder coming online soon also, there are going to be a lot of teachers who are teaching. It's a phenomenal part of the blueprint. Teachers who are teaching a portion of the day, but teaching less so that they're coaching other teachers. And those teachers, many of them as they step into this, will be doing that for the first time. They can participate in training in what it means to coach another teacher as well. So we see not just the benefit from the 50 to 200 state coaches, but rather all the ripple effects that would come from this program as well.
And the last question is for clarity. So the coaches are assigned not based on teacher performance, but on student outcomes that the teacher is directly dealing with, right?
That's correct.
Okay, all right.
Okay, let's go Senator Hester, then Senator Carrozza.
I would like to be clear that I am not against this program. I think it's a great program, but we are trimming costs all over the place. My problem is with the scale of this program. It's $17 million growing to $170 million. And at the same time, we have cut all of our money in the dedicated purpose account for cybersecurity. We have one person in the entire state of Maryland at the state level looking out for cybersecurity for the local school system. I had a bill that would have had 3 more people. That's 4 people for the entire state. And we're asking for 200 coaches. Why can't we have 196 coaches and 4 people for cybersecurity? I also had a bill that would have improved the ability of MSDE to look at artificial intelligence and how we are actually getting our kids ready to meet the 21st century. That bill called for 2 people. So we are putting 200 coaches in the school and we are not leveraging technology at all. This program is penny wise and pound foolish. I believe that this is in the budget. So we could do whatever we wanted on the policy of this, and it would be in the budget. That would then go to conference committee, and we could put money in towards maintaining our things. What happens if we get a cyber attack on one of our schools? There is nobody now and no dedicated purpose account to protect those schools. The schools are going to be on their own. How much did it cost Prince George's County? Can any of you answer me that? How many people does MSD have working full-time on AI? Can you guys answer that? This is ridiculous. It's not a bad program, but it is not scaled appropriately to meet the needs of today's needs. It's just too much.
Okay, we're going to go to. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, there you go.
I think I heard one question, so I'm sorry if I missed the first one.
I can repeat them. How much did Prince George's a recent cyber attack cost, and how are we going to pay for the next one, because we will have another one next year, and how many people does MSD have working on artificial intelligence full-time? How many would be ideal? How many do you have working on cybersecurity full-time, and how much would be ideal?
I can't speak to the specific numbers with the Prince George's County cyber attack. I will say that with your urging, we have added a position for artificial intelligence, and we are very excited for that to launch in the coming year. Ideally, this would be a team, a small team leading on artificial intelligence. We share your push for that coming fast and furious in the future, and we want to make sure that we support that. So we, to that end, have added one position in the budget for next year.
This is a policy question. We are saying that 200 coaches are more important than 3 ISOs for cybersecurity and 3 people for AI. I mean, this is a policy question, and we are not moving on policy that will keep our infrastructure afloat. I mean, if the coaches go to school and the school is shut down, if the coaches go to school, they don't know whether they can use an AI tutor or not. It's not good policy.
Okay, Senator Augustine?
I disagree. In our Constitution, education is there. It's like one of our primary responsibilities that we have. We invest billions of dollars on education, and we have got these folks who we have charged with providing that level of education for our kids. It's their priorities. They're all priorities. If this is a pathway for us to have success for our kids, then I'm supportive of that.
What I'm saying is, instead of 200 coaches, can't we have 190 coaches and keep the schools running properly? That is what I am saying.
Okay, what I'm going to suggest is just do a roll call vote. If the bill on this section, how it goes down, it goes down. If it goes up, it goes up. I mean, that's how we have to roll. I mean, sure, absolutely. Who do you want to?
I didn't appreciate the.
It's a question directed to the panel.
The question is, I mean, why does it have to be all or nothing? Like, why can't we say that we would support this at $16 million and not $17 million, and we want to use that money for something else?
You know, as I think I said at the outset yesterday, B&T, this conference committee stuff, I mean, there's still negotiation. I mean, I think this discussion is probably going to make its way into some of the further discussions, because clearly this has been a focal point. We don't have the authority to do it because we're not the budget committee, but I think the fact that this has been put out there could be a floor amendment. We debate the budget. It could be part of the conference committee. I think that this discussion is worthwhile, and I think it's raised the profile of the topic. I mean, we can't personally, jurisdictionally, do what you just said.
I don't think that that's true. I mean, this is in the. I mean, I'm being told it's in the budget. I mean,
in this bill.
It's not in this bill.
The budget's not in this bill, but
we can put some policy parameters on the pilot. So, I mean, I would say that we should just, not vote on this and come up with an alternative. I mean, there's 3 columns here, A, B, and C. Why can't we have D?
Okay, yeah. Cool.
Uncodified language that expresses some of your thoughts and concerns?
Okay, well, I think I think the issue has been pretty prominently discussed, and I kind of feel for this committee, given like our parameters, I kind of feel like this is sending a message to conference committee and B&T to do something maybe on the dollar figure, to do something in terms of some guardrails. And so I think, I'm just making this point. Right now, we're a little bit constrained in terms of, again, the authority of the committee to start moving money around or chopping dollars. I just don't think that's, Stacy, if you
B&T
could.
is voting this week on the budget. If you have concerns about AI things or things you want to, numbers you want to change, you can bring an amendment up to the budget committee and ask them to consider your proposals.
But the policy is sitting here in this committee. I brought
But there's no money attached to this proposal. It's just a policy provision. The money is in the budget.
So can I offer an amendment that would add I mean, at least these 6 people that I want as a policy thing to this bill? I mean, I'd have to get it drafted, but.
I think in general, the rule is not to add pins in the law, but you could offer an amendment to do
So
that.
what are these 203 people? Coaches, are they not pins?
MSDE is responsible for hiring them.
And then will they be pins?
I don't know how that works, but I know that,
Okay, how about this? I'll come back. I would like, is there a motion on the table? And if it goes down, it goes down. If it doesn't go down, we've delivered a message to the B&T. Okay, we've got a motion from Senator Augustine on the Academic Excellence Program, House amendments, second from the Vice Chair. Let's do a roll call. And if it's all read, then the,
Senator Kagan?
I'm sorry? No, there was no second. Okay.
I asked a question, having an amendment to get my people in, and I was told that I couldn't do that amendment now, so I guess I'll do it on the floor.
Senator Kagan?
Aye.
Senator Kagan, yes. Senator Augustine? Yes. Senator Augustine, yes. Senator Gallion? No. Senator Gallion, no. Senator Watson?
Yes, but I'd like to explain my vote. So, you know, it is true that, you know, and I did do some back checking. Baltimore County Public Schools faced $9.7 million in recovery for their attack in 2020. I do know that. And I do understand the senator's perspective is, if we're talking about 200-ish folks, we know how much they make a year because we've heard it. Reducing it by 4 and adding it, I get it, it makes sense. But I also understand the constraints we're under as a body. So I'm going to support this, but maybe this is something that we can work on at another time. So I vote aye.
Okay. Senator Attar?
Yes.
Senator Attar, yes. Senator Brooks? Yes. Senator Brooks, yes. Senator Carrozza? No. Senator Carrozza, yes. I'm sorry. Senator Carrozza, no. Senator Hester?
I am really sorry, because I actually believe that this is a good program. I think it's, the size is not right. I think when we are trimming all this stuff, the size is not right. And I think that is a policy decision because we are not doing other policy things. And so unfortunately, at this point, I am no.
Okay. Senator Hester, no. Senator Simonaire?
I think it's a reasonable request. I think it would have sent a message and it would have got worked out in conference, so I'm a no.
Okay. Senator Simonaire is no. Senator Feldman?
Okay, I vote aye. Bill carries 6-4. I mean, the motion. Okay, but the message is being delivered. Stacy?
The Grow Your Own Educators Grant Program. The program supports collaboratives that offer teacher licensure programs with experiential learning emphasis. Essentially, this is a program that targets individuals who are already in schools and seeks to get them licensed as teachers. You can start to see the changes on pages 34 through 40 of your reprint. The House amendments made some alterations. They put some conditions on teacher candidates, meaning they have to meet all of the conditions, not just one of them. There was some definitional changes. Let's see here. And the Senate amendments are the same as the House amendments, the minor changes in this little part of the Grow Your Own. There's more parts coming along.
Okay, questions?
Look at page 35.
Page 35. Questions for the panel? Senator Watson.
I just love having you all here. I mean, I wish we could go out to dinner together. Just tell me fundamentally, what do you think the difference is with the Grow Your Own program and things like Teach for America? What is the difference? It seems like, from my background, we have many of these teacher certification type programs, and here's yet another one, and there's got to be something that I'm missing.
So I have an example. So I was on the Board of Education in Frederick County for 2 terms, and we had a support employee that would come and advocate to the board on a number of things. And you could see he had leadership. He had a lot of energy. He was exactly somebody that we would want in the classroom. He wanted to be in the classroom, but he wasn't able to because in order to, say, get his teaching hours in as a student teacher, he would have to stop working as, he was an instructional assistant. So he would have to stop getting a paycheck and do that, and it wasn't affordable to him. So we started talking about it as a board, and we said, there's got to be something that we can do. And we decided we would lift some of our own policy. He was able to make his salary, and he was able to do his teaching in class while he was making his salary, do his IA position and get credit for a lot of that. And he is now a teacher at a high school in Frederick County. He's been there for at least a decade or so. He's also one of the track coaches at the high school. Just a very successful, and that's what Grow Your Own is really about. There's people here, already here, that are untapped and that need help and support in order to move into a teaching position.
Well, let's take, we have motion, and a second, motion from Senator Watson, second from Senator Augustine. We have a question from Senator Carrozza.
Yeah, just as we're going through these, and I appreciate the clarification because there's so many different programs trying to figure out if they're programs that, are already being funded by the blueprint, are they, so my question here is on Grow Your Own, what are we talking about as far as amounts?
Under current law, there's no dollars appropriated for the program. It was an authorization bill only last year. The governor originally proposed about $34 million for the program, but that's been reduced by the House. So I think in the House budget they have like $19 million.
So that's in the budget now as part of the blueprint?
Correct. Coming out of the blueprint fund for this.
Additional questions? Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor of that motion, raise your hand. All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. On the Grow Your Own Educator Program, let's, Stacy, where we at?
Yes, so the House made some other minor changes here. They required that the mentor teacher that was added must be regularly employed by the local school system for the entirety of the program. And then they strike the recruitment initiative provision, and the proposed Senate amendments are the same as the House amendments here.
Okay, Senator Augustine has moved the House amendments. Is there a second? Senator Attar, second. Discussion, questions? All in favor of us adopting the House amendments on this particular topic, raise your hand. All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Stacy?
So the governor's bill as introduced has a consultation with a national nonprofit entity with experience increasing the number of teachers. So the House amendments struck language in the bill that required MSD to work in collaboration with the Department of Labor to provide technical assistance. And that meets up actually with the governor's intent because this other entity is expected to perform that. The House amendments also struck provisions requiring the awarding of grants to begin on January 1, 26, and any awards directly to IHEs instead of to collaboratives. And it authorizes a teacher candidate to serve as a daily substitute teacher under specified circumstances as approved by, I think, the bargaining units. And so the proposed Senate amendments are the same as the House amendments.
Okay, questions? Okay. Okay, Senator Augustine moves the House amendments. Is there a second? Second from Senator Attar. Discussion? All in favor on this consultation with national nonprofit entity House amendments, raise your hand. All opposed? That motion carries unanimously. Stacy, initial teacher credentialing?
Correct. There's an exemption put forth in the law for credentialed teachers from another state or who through licensure compact from certain, are exempt from certain exam and experience requirements. The House struck this in the bill, and they also struck the Interstate Teacher Mobility Compact. The Senate makes no changes to those provisions, so there's no motion.
Okay, no changes, no motion needed, any discussion, questions? Okay, let's move to the next item.
In the bill, there's a contract with an independent entity to conduct a study for special ed funding in the state. That's on page 62 and 63 if you're looking. No changes were made in the House. The Senate made some tweaks to the language in the special education study to review the previous study that was done in 2019, and it strikes some pre-K language as being duplicative.
No, that's a no, we're
That is a
talking.
change, yes.
Okay, wait,
The House made no changes, but the
apologize.
Senate makes some
Yeah, okay.
language changes.
Gotcha. Okay, Senator Augustine moves the Senate amendments on that item. Second from Senator Tar. Discussion? All in favor? Raise your hand. All opposed? Those Senate amendments carry. And now,
One last thing.
one last thing.
Right, so the governor's bill did not include this. The House added in their bill that they add a requirement that MSD conduct a study in consultation with the Maryland Center for Community Schools and Towson University to evaluate the Constitution of Poverty grant program and to establish requirements for community school implementation plans. The Senate made some minor changes here, that instead of consultation with a specific program, that it's more open. It requires consultation with any institution of higher education in the state that conducts research on community schools, and it adjusts the language so it's not the entity that they're consulting with that has any say in setting what the established requirements are for the community schools. Just MSD would have that responsibility.
With the Senate amendments?
Okay, Senator Augustine moves the Senate amendments. For second, Senator Tar. Discussion? All in favor of those Senate amendments, raise your hand. All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay. Now we're going to move to.
Now yes. Did you want to move oh, we were going to wait till the.
No, we're going to take up the amendments.
Okay. Okay. Want to start with Senator Hester?
Yeah, let's start with Senator Hester, has, I believe, two amendments.
Yes.
So we'll start with Senator Hester's amendments.
So this is number 653723/1. So this amendment would add a temporary exemption to a section requiring that digital tools procured by school systems have equivalent access for students with disabilities for a digital tool that uses AI to support student learning. The exemption would terminate in June 30th, 2028.
Okay, Senator Hester, do you want to put a little more meat on it?
So I think I described this yesterday, but there have been some really good pilots that are showing super positive results with kids reading improving like 10 to 20% in 6 months. The state cannot legally purchase AI tutors because they don't meet this requirement in terms of accessibility for everyone. So I'm proposing this as a temporary, amendment until the technology can catch up, and that, truly everybody can use it. I mean, I also think that, those who can't use it now, they might be able to get more real teacher time if the reading tutoring or the math tutoring that's done with AI, is available for everyone. So with that, I move the amendment.
Okay, Senator Hester moves her amendment. Is there a second? Senator McGallion, any discussion? Okay, all in favor of the Hester amendment, this Hester amendment, raise your hand. All opposed? That motion carries unanimously. The Hester amendment goes on the bill. And there's a second to Hester amendment?
This is, okay. 583520/1. So this amendment alters the component parts of the foundation target per pupil amount to include implementing the blueprint, to include cybersecurity technology and hardware. Requires county boards and schools beginning in fiscal year 27 and thereafter to use certain foundation amount funds for cybersecurity tech, hardware, or staff in the amount.
Yeah, just, folks,
Second page of the.
yeah, second page, yeah.
So I just wanted to clarify something for myself, because when I saw this, I wasn't quite sure how this impacted. But when I talked to the analyst council up in the budget committee, she said that this section of law, 5212, is the list of everything the Kerwin Commission included in the foundation amount. It's how they built the foundation amount. So if you accept this amendment, you start diluting the other categories of what they can spend the money on by doing this. So this is not allowable expenditures, it's actually the money that undergirds the foundation amount.
Can I just clarify that?
Okay.
Maybe we should seek, because I don't think we're seeing eye to eye on what you just said. This was in the blueprint cleanup bill in 2021 or 2022, whichever year it was. Senator Robiza and I worked all year with the IT affiliates. We added $188 per kid. That is in line 8. So this is existing language in the blueprint bill, which says education technology, including digital devices, broadband connectivity, and information technology staff. I thought that was broad enough at the time that it would include cybersecurity. In reality, it hasn't included cybersecurity. And so that is what this, it's adding, it's not changing the formula, not diluting the whole formula. It's adding, it's clarifying that we support broadband, we support, IT. This also includes cybersecurity. I'd also like to remind this committee that we had at one point $200 million in the dedicated purpose account for cybersecurity. That was $150 million we lost last year. The rest of it we lost this year. So we have uninvested in cybersecurity by $200 million. This simply says that this is included in some of what they should be doing. And we really need to ensure that our schools can function, that we can keep the lights on, and this is what the IT affiliates have told me that they need, is they need some prioritized funding for cybersecurity in this, and this is one way to do it.
Okay, well, obviously, we have a somewhat of a difference of opinion between the B&T analyst and Senator Hester on this one. Yes, Senator Augustine.
So it says this 0.7%, right? Like, where does that come from then?
I'm
saying like.
So when we talked to the drafter, right, I had asked for of the $188 that we worked on in 2021, that got worked into the formula. And I said, can we have a third of that go to cybersecurity, right? So a third of the 188. The analyst said the 188 is not actually in the blueprint as 188. It's there as part of the formula. And so they worked backwards and they said it would be 0.7%. That is what the analyst said. And I can get you guys clarification on that if you want.
Okay, well, again, I think this puts a little quandary. Is it possible? I'm just going to put this on the table.
I tried to offer this in B&T and they refused. I sent it to Erica, I sent it to Stacy. I said, please discuss this in B&T. And they said, no, it's a policy decision. I've got, that is on, Stacy's agreeing with me.
She did send it up, and I sent it to them, and that.
They sent it
the
back.
Decision. Yes.
Okay.
I'm telling you what she told me.
Okay, any other discussion? Because again, this idea of does it dilute, doesn't it dilute? Mary Pat, do you have any, anybody, you don't want to get in the middle of this? Okay, fair enough. Looking for a little guidance here, expertise. Okay. Okay, well, here's what I think in the current posture, it's going to be, I think it's challenging to say yes unless we have clarity on what the.
We can hold it and talk about the amendment later. What I was trying to clarify that Stacy said is that this wasn't in the original blueprint bill. The original blueprint bill didn't have number 8 at all. Number 8 was added in 2021, after we'd gone through COVID. We now had all these devices, and so we added 8 in total to the blueprint. So I'm not changing the blueprint, I'm adding, we said broadband was important, so why isn't cybersecurity important? It's a policy question.
Since this, again, I'll put this back on, as I keep repeating, Senator Hester, I'm not comfortable, somebody can obviously make a motion, we can take a vote, I think the better course, because there's a little lack of clarity, would be we still move forward. We take your amendment, we get a little conversation going with B&T and get some clarity. I mean, I don't want to jam it. If people feel comfortable taking a vote, fine, but I personally don't feel with just kind of the back and forth discussion here and a little confusion, but.
I'm happy to hold it back. I mean, I think there's a bigger problem, right? We just lost, we had $200 million for cybersecurity that's disappeared in 2 years. We have one person in DeWitt helping the schools with cybersecurity, and nobody at MSDE. One person in the state of Maryland who is helping all of our schools with cybersecurity. So it's a bigger, I mean, this little amendment is not going to fix the problem, but it helps at least get it on the radar of the locals so that they start taking some accountability for cybersecurity, because some people are doing it really well, some people are not. So
Can I ask a clarifying question? Yes. Would that eat up all of the money that would be allocated to that purpose? All 188 or all $198? Because if it is, that means that they can't purchase other digital technology because you have restricted the money to a very specific purpose. That's all I'm asking. What is the parameters of that?
I was told by the drafter of the amendment that 0.7% is 35% of 188 in 2021 dollars. That is what I was told.
So it's not the entire amount, it's a percentage.
It's 35, it was 35% of the original 188. But that's why I sent it to Budget and Tax.
Okay, guys. Okay, I personally am not comfortable voting for the amendment, but just because I think there's little lack of clarity on the table. But I think it's still a live issue because this is still going to be negotiated with the House. Have you talked to anybody on the House side about this? I mean, putting aside the Senate. I mean, again, this bill's probably going to get modified. That's why I don't want to jam it. But if you want to put it for a vote, you can. But I think it's put people in a little awkward spot.
You're going to vote against it.
Well, I feel a little, yes, I think I can't support it, but.
I will wait, and I'm going to have a conversation with leadership about the amount of money we're spending on coaches compared to the amount that we're spending on
Okay, well, these are a couple issues that are very much in play right now. Okay, with that, thank you, Senator Hester. Yes, Senator Gallion?
In the time-wise, to help out a little bit, so
Yeah.
I don't mean to skip or cut in line, but
No.
I had some amendments.
Yeah.
But since we took a vote on kind of individual things when we went through that packet, I don't have the votes for the amendments to pass, so I'm not going to offer those.
Okay, well, I think the committee
So you're
appreciates that.
withdrawn?
Are they withdrawn? You want to, okay. So the Gallion proffered amendments are withdrawn. Well, you want to go to the Rosa Pep?
Sure.
I think Senator Rosa Pep has two amendments.
Yes. So yesterday, this is 993-528/1. So yesterday, the amendment that Senator Rosa Pep offered, we found a slight problem. It didn't actually implement his intent. So we switched it out, and we'll describe it a little bit different this time.
Which one's this? There's two separate.
Right, so this is the Grow Your Own Educators Grant Program. Yesterday, when I described the amendment, it said it would change the priority of the grant program to just giving grant priorities to any collaborative that had a registered teacher apprenticeship program. But that wasn't his intent. Apparently, different types of collaboratives can be formed under the program, and what his intent is that if it's a collaborative that has a registered teacher apprenticeship model, then the ones that have multiple local school systems grouped together and local bargaining units grouped together in the collaborative, then the grant should be awarded, the grant awards should be awarded to them as a priority, only for those collaboratives. So it doesn't change the purpose of the program. It just means that in that model, with certain collaboratives, they want the what did you call it, Mike? The multi-employee or multi-school system, yeah. So that is his amendment.
Okay, this is the collaborative amendment. He's got two amendments. So Senator Carrozza, questions?
Yeah, if I can speak to this, because this is working extremely well in my district. And as I understand it, this amendment's going to allow these partnerships
between the local workforce boards, the community colleges, and the local education agencies, the school systems, to continue to do these partnerships together. And as I said, I've been in the schools where they're targeting these, to the students, and they're very successful. I don't know if it was passed around, but I also see that with the whole career coaching that,
That's not this amendment.
what's that?
That's not this amendment.
I thought
This
you
is the
said
Grow
there's
Your
two
Own
of-
program.
What's that?
This is the Grow Your Own program.
Okay, then I was speaking to
That's the next one.
Okay, thank you. Okay, when you said two amendments, I was looking at this one. Okay.
Okay, back on this amendment. I need to, sure, Senator Augustine.
Stacy, I understand the intent. I do understand the intent now.
Right.
But I'm still trying to understand how this bill language, which says the department shall prioritize collaboratives, that.
So if you look at the actual amendment, you'll see that in your packet, the language changed because it says, in this subsection applies only to collaboratives that implement a registered teacher apprenticeship program under, model under this program. So if they don't have a model of their collaborative that uses a registered teacher apprenticeship, then the grant awarding priority would not apply
Oh, I got it.
to that
Thank you.
collaborative.
I got it now. Thank you for the explanation.
You're welcome.
I'm fine with it. I'll move the amendment.
Okay. Got a motion from Senator Augustine, a second from Senator Watson. Any further discussion on the first Rosapep amendment dealing with collaborative, et cetera, et cetera? Okay, all in favor of that Rosapep amendment, raise your hand. All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Let's move to the other Rosapep amendment.
So this is 493922/1. So this one extends the requirement that county boards provide certain funding to local workforce development boards to support career counseling program for middle and high school students through fiscal years 25 through 28. It also requires the AIB to report to the governor and the Maryland General Assembly on the effectiveness of career counseling program on or before January 1, 2027.
Okay, questions for Stacy on this particular amendment from Senator Rosapep? Senator Carrozza.
So as I understand this amendment will allow these partnerships that already exist between the local workforce boards, the community colleges, and local school systems, that the partnerships would continue for FY 27 and 28. After that, as I understand it, that's when the AIB would conduct an evaluation, I guess factoring in how many businesses have participated and how many students they've reached. That's my understanding of the amendment, and that if we don't move forward with the amendment, you could have, it may not go forward if school systems decide not to fund it, as I understand it.
So I will explain a little bit here. There's a House bill that is in the possession of this committee, House Bill 772, and third reader, which does essentially what's in this amendment, but slightly less. The issue is with the funding for the program. It expires this year, and there have been concerns raised on, I don't know, I've heard a lot from different stakeholders about some concerns with the program. So the thinking with Senator Rosapep's amendment is to extend the funding because it's mandated funding. The locals have to give this money to workforce development boards for the purposes of this program. But that funding was expiring this year. This would extend it for a few additional years, and then it would study the program. I can just let you know that you could adopt this amendment and put it in this bill. The other option is to wait and hear the bill that's coming in on Wednesday and have a discussion about it then. those are a couple options that are on the table.
Well, I certainly support this amendment in that, again, seeing this in action and seeing that it's really, that this is one of those programs where the partnerships actually work, that the workforce, these local workforce boards bring in the employers. You have these, you've got the career coaches involved at the schools, and they're really reaching the students. I was just looking at, and I don't know if it was shared with all the committee, but Senator McCray was talking about what just happened with the Baltimore Career Coaching Initiative. So I just, again, I understand that that there might have been issues in other parts of the state, but why wouldn't we conduct some oversight as opposed to just not moving forward with it?
Okay, well, since you like it so much, you want to move it?
I move the Roosevelt amendment.
Okay, second from Senator Hester. Senator Carrozza moved it. Discussion? All in favor of this second Roosevelt amendment, raise your hand. All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. We have Senator Karen Lewis Young and Senator Carrozza amendments. Let's tell us, let's do the Lewis Young first, because this essentially is a bill that the committee did not pass, and she's taken her bill and put it in the form of an amendment and put it in here in an amendment. But just a little commentary. But that said, Stacy, describe the Senator Lewis Young.
So this amendment does 5 things. It would remove principals and assistant principals from the career ladder and would repeal the administrator track. It would decrease the salary increases by half for maintenance of national board certification. It redefines a non-classroom teacher to be a non-classroom educator for purposes of the career ladder. For purpose of pre-K funding, the definition of Tier 1 child is altered to include children with a disability and English language learners. And then it authorizes county boards to establish family income eligibility limits for payment of costs for a certain post-college and career-ready pathway, and prohibits imposing a cost for a student whose family income meets farm eligibility guidelines. This was Senate Bill 852.
Okay. Any discussion about this bill? Senator Carrozza.
Thought maybe since some of these provisions in this amendment came from the recommendations from the superintendents, I don't know if Mary Pat can join us, if she's still here. But as I understand it, talking to my local school superintendents, one of the priorities where, again, I think trying to prioritize a little bit, when we look at the Tier 1 pre-K, I think we have the resources that we can move forward with the pre-K Tier 1 students for 4-year-olds, but we would give some flexibility if there are other school systems that can go beyond that and do all students, that it would still give those school systems the flexibility, but it would start, one provision of this, it would start to limit, at least on what's affordable with the Tier 1 students. That's, as I understand, one of the main components of this amendment. The other ones, when you talk about, I think there's some similarities with what I'm going to introduce, but I understood that this bill basically reflects the recommendations of the superintendents.
And again, I think it's essentially the bill that we have not moved, but Senator Watson, you have questions on this?
Yeah, so what is the logic behind saying principals and assistant principals are not on a career ladder?
Am I on?
Yep,
Yeah.
you get that.
So assistant principals and principals are represented in separate bargaining units from teachers. And there are tons of provisions in the blueprint that are very specific to teachers, like getting NBC certification, the amount of time that they have in the classroom. And it is our Principals Association and our A&S units and all of our LEAs that they feel like these are very inappropriate certification levels for administrators on the career administrators, so that they really should be separate. It's very specific in the blueprint that it says that NBC should be given to a teacher of record. Assistant principals and principals are not teachers of record, so they shouldn't be held to specific teaching times or have to get their NBC. And so this is something that we're facing having to negotiate. It's one small issue in the career ladder that we really feel like is, people didn't understand how the bargaining units worked.
I got it. So it's a union thing. I understand. And so there's every teacher that I've spoken to, and I know we've talked a lot about pulling them back, keeping them in the classroom. They all want to get into administration, at least the ones that I know very well, right? But there's nothing that precludes any of these individuals for continuing to move up the food chain, whether you're in administration or not, to just move up, right?
It would preclude, you could not become, under the current law, you could not become a principal without your NBC by 2029. And so we think that's inappropriate, that you shouldn't have to get your NBC in order to be a principal. So right now, you actually are held back from becoming an administrator later on down the line. And so we're trying to remove that. We're trying to say a teacher's a teacher, an administrator's an administrator, two different certifications, two different requirements.
Got it. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll just say, just as a process matter, you know, there's a little precedent here. I mean, like, you have a bill in the committee, you have a hearing, committee doesn't move it, just take the bill, throw it into another bill. I mean, if we go down that road, man, I mean, every bill here in the committee is going to have an amendment. I mean, I'm just making that broad point. Okay. Okay, well, is anybody else moving it? Okay, see no motion. I think tabling that one. Let's go to Senator Carrozza's amendment, which will be the final set of amendments that we'll take up today.
First Senator Carrozza amendment is 173823/1. This requires MSDE in collaboration with AIB to convene a work group to conduct a two-part stakeholder review process for the first part, potential funding modifications to the blueprint to ensure long-term and short-term sustainability of the blueprint. And second, an analysis of all funding components necessary to deliver adequate and equitable education. The final report would be due on September 1, 2026.
Okay, Senator Carrozza.
Thank you. I'd like to speak to this, and this long discussion tonight, to me, has underscored exactly why we need this this amendment and this work group. This, if you look at what is really, I believe this is something we should have done. We should have probably have done from the very beginning, where you're actually going to have a process where you actually look at the requirements of the blueprint and pillar by pillar go down and look at now how we can possibly make some funding modifications to ensure that both the short-term and long-term sustainability. And if you can see, you look at still reaching your goals, but how you might be able to make some adjustments that would be more affordable given the budget crisis at the state level, but also giving the locals some flexibility to reach their goals. At the same time, I think what's important about this this review is it's also going to look at the mandates that go beyond blueprint that we have to keep in mind that our local school systems are responsible for. You want everything beyond the blueprint when you're talking about pensions, when you're talking about dual enrollment, when you're talking about after school programs, everything else that we expect our schools to do. And again, this process
again, this information would come back to us as policymakers. So it wouldn't be a work group that's pushing any one set of recommendations, bringing all this information that we need to make good decisions on how we're going to afford the blueprint going forward and meeting our goals and tying it to student performance. I think that's why this amendment is strongly supported by both the MABE, the superintendents, the boards of education, and MACO. And I really believe that this will be helpful to all of us as we move forward and help ensure the success of the blueprint. So I would move the amendment.
I'd like just to speak in favor of the bill. I think.
Of the
amendment.
Okay.
Yes. I believe that there was, a lot of work done that resulted in Senator Lewis Young's, bill by the superintendents and other stakeholders. I think that we need this kind of work done outside the 90-day session so that we're not, here at 7 p.m. next year at this time. So I fully support the amendment, and I think it will put us all in a better position for next year. So I will be voting yes on the amendment.
Okay, Senator Augustine.
Thank you, Chair. We have obviously MSDE and the AIB here. Would you all please, is it okay?
Yeah,
They say
absolutely,
something? I mean,
absolutely.
This is,
Absolutely.
have y'all seen it? Can you speak to it?
Yeah, our state board hasn't had the opportunity to review this one and discuss it, so I wouldn't feel comfortable speaking on behalf of the state board.
That's not, that's not a good answer. Yeah.
Well, and I'm in the same position, but I will say that, the blueprint was developed after 3 years of deliberation and taking a lot of look at a lot of research and best practices. And that was just a few years ago. I will say that certainly things have happened that the commission cannot have anticipated. COVID was one of them, and we're still recovering from that. And then that has, affected a lot of other things. And so I think the inflation situation is something that we could also, we budgeted for inflation on the commission, but this level of inflation was not anticipated at the time. So, I could see an examination of that, but in terms of the actual policy and practices that are in place, that is something that, because all of those were based in a lot of research and a lot of evidence-based research, I think we would be hard-pressed to make adjustments at this time. I think it would have to be a pretty high bar in terms of the evidence that we'd be looking at, that we would make adjustments to the policy pieces.
Can I follow up?
But just to clarify, this is focused, if you look at the language in the amendment, it's very specific with an emphasis on ensuring adequate funding is available to improve student achievement in the state. And then it goes through the policies in the blueprint, but again,
It's their job.
it's a focus on ensuring adequate funding as opposed to opening up policies. And, and after Senator Augustine, I'd also like to give opportunity for the
Go back
local
to Senator
superintendents.
Augustine. He didn't necessarily yield, so let's go back
Yeah.
to Senator Augustine.
So you all are saying you don't want to speak to it, but I just want you to know, it says perform a comprehensive review of the fiscal mandates of the blueprint for Maryland's future and a forecast of state and local revenues to support existing and anticipated fiscal mandates under the blueprint. I mean, and to do that by November 15th of 2025 is when you would have to have this done by. That's a pretty big part of what this is asking for.
Yeah, as with any work group or task force, we would have to think about the impact operationally on us and the ability to carry this. I will say, Superintendent Wright has put a lot of things in place already related to advisory councils to gather stakeholder feedback. I think stakeholder feedback, to your point, Senator Croza, is critical, and so she's launched a number of structures to do just that. She has a teacher advisory council, a principal advisory council. We're launching a student advisory council. She has a family advisory council. So these are all groups where we hope to gather ongoing stakeholder feedback within the confines of our staff and budget.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Senator Watson.
Question. Senator Croza, is the objective here to get us to a point where we know exactly how many years of funding are available based on current budget situation to fully fund the blueprint?
I think it's taking a step back. We just spent a couple hours here trying to figure out what we were going to do with all our different teaching programs. And then as we talk about these policies at the state level, my immediate question is, well, what's the expectation at the local level? So this, to me, was a logical follow-up. The superintendents, and their work was supported by MABE and by MACO. They spent an incredible amount of time coming up with 30-plus recommendations about how to improve implementation of the blueprint. They weren't running away from the goals of the blueprint. They thoughtfully came up with and said, okay, if we're to do this, if we're going to achieve these goals, here's where we're looking for flexibility. Here's where we're looking for a little bit more give on our end. Plus the fact that I think we need to be realistic that we don't have the money to pay for the blueprint as proposed.
Well, the
so
money
then you would prioritize.
Well, the money is one thing, which is why I separated the question. What I'm getting at is there is a fiscal outlook. How long can we afford this thing? I think that's outside of their purview to be able to do this. But fundamentally, the AIB Accountability Implementation Board seems like everything you're saying should be already under the purview of the AIB to determine what's working, what's not, the metrics that they're going to hold the schools accountable, the things that they're going to look at the 5 pillars to ensure that it's doing what it's supposed to do. Now, tell me if I'm wrong, correct? That's what I thought. So, because the thing that I've been jumping up and down all about is we're pouring all this money in, but you can't show success if you don't measure it. Now we got the AIB. This is their job. I think, my personal opinion, I think we should let them do it and hold them accountable. They're in positions to provide these metrics and to let us know that they're making progress. It seems like your bill might be a little duplicative from my perspective, but maybe I'm looking at it the wrong way and I'm missing your true intent.
So I think what's glaringly missing is if you look down, you can see all the local involvement, which I think is absolutely critical. And it really was to bring, in this case, MSDE, AIB, Department of Budget and Management, which has bring that piece in, the Department of Legislative Services, and then a real emphasis on having that local participation where I believe so many of the good ideas of how to make the blueprint successful are coming from the locals. Just say, okay, this is how, if this is the mandate, this is how much it's going to cost. This is where we need some flexibility, which is why if you look at the description, both the short-term and long-term sustainability, but again, tying that to ensuring adequate funding is available to improving student achievement. I don't think we talk enough about tying this to student achievement. So I thought having all the stakeholders, and I'd like to just give, if I could, Mr. Chair, Mary Pat, an opportunity to flush it out a little bit because it's coming from the front lines.
Hey, Mary Pat, go on.
But, I'll just say, you know, this year, the AIB made a decision in one meeting to cut collaborative time for 4 years without any stakeholder input from us. It was $1 billion impact that, you know, was going to change the trajectory of our work for the next 10 years. It was a decision that the governor came out because, you know, he said that we couldn't afford it. And then there was a policy that quickly followed that matched that funding. And we don't want to be in that situation again and next year. And we haven't had an opportunity to really have our voices heard and say what's working and what's not. And had a fair conversation about what it costs. And so that's part of what this work group is about. And it's about what works and what doesn't, but also we recognize that this is part of the problem, right? We recognize the blueprint as part of the state's crisis. So why don't we all sit and have some conversations about what some of those long-term impacts could be and where those cuts could be? We knew that there were some issues. We put some ideas out on the table. So we're just asking for a seat at the table to talk about this. And, you know, our funding partners are taking a big hit in the BRFA. And, you know, they're taking a hit in the pensions, and they're taking a hit on some of these costs that are being moved from the state government. And so we're just trying to push our way in.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
It does
Yeah,
say, it says,
go
it
on.
says press,
Yeah,
just, it
just
says
leave it
don't press the button. So I'm trying to do it. So I just want to speak to, you know, the intimation that the AIB somehow got some marching orders to do X, Y, or Z. You know, the AIB can do math, right? We got a very, very sobering report in December from MSDE, and it laid out the teacher shortage, and it was a very dire picture. And we realized, the board realized, there was no way that with fidelity, or even without fidelity, that people could be successful rolling out collaborative time as it was envisioned in the blueprint. So they took a position, sort of blessing a pause to that particular component of the blueprint. I think they felt comfortable doing that because, now I've only been here for about 6 or 8 weeks, but the budgets that I've seen didn't seem to reflect school systems budgeting for collaborative time. And I just want to make sure collaborative time is understood. It's not planning time. It is literally time where I'm going to talk to you as a teacher and to 2 other teachers, and we're going to work on a group of students that we have in common, or a group of students in our grade band that are having the same problem with X, Y, or Z, and we're going to work on that together. That is different from what teachers are used to having planning time to do. So I think the AIB took a very realistic look at what that looked like, came up with that recommendation. And it was based in reality, based on what they were seeing in school budgets that were being planned for the next year. Now, I will say, and also that we've been fairly flexible. We do a lot of listening to our LEAs and provide them with a lot of flexibility. I mean, there's examples that I can point to where the deadline was coming up, and we've given them 3 years or extended deadlines to do such. So I just want to speak to that. But I do want to point out that there is an interim report that is legislated through the law that we will be doing at the end of this year. So some of the things that you're looking for in terms of the efficacy of what we have been doing and putting money towards we'll be taking a pulse check, a very formal pulse check at the end of this calendar year.
So I'm going to, obviously, there's some folks that are taking a walk on this, so I'm going to withdraw the amendment. I will, though, underscore that this really goes beyond, I think, what's being described. I mean, if you look at what this stakeholder group was going to do as far as the thoughtful process they were going to do, really look at understanding that what we've passed, looking at the fiscal mandates, having the right people in the room to know the affordability, prioritization, And that has not been done. It hasn't been done on the blueprint, pillar by pillar, and it has not been done looking at everything that's on the local school systems right now. And that's where I saw the value in this, not to compete or to be critical of the role of AIB or MSDE, but to take the pieces you're doing and then make sure the local component is there. So, really, this would be a valuable, not only I think for your work together, but valuable to us as policymakers, as well as extremely valuable at the local level. So I really, I really see this as a missed opportunity, and I'm disappointed to hear what the response is from both MSDE and AIB on it.
Okay, folks, that's the extent of the amendments that we have in front of us that have been proffered. Oh, are there two more? Oh, I apologize. Well, there's only, we have the spot.
Here at this point.
Okay, we'll walk through Senator Washington's amendment. Senator Washington's not here.
Senator Washington amendments does several things. One, it strikes the Interstate Teacher Mobility Compact. It strikes the provision regarding interest earned by the Academic Excellence Fund being added to the Blueprint Fund. For community schools, it strikes the governor's proposal to allow county boards to expend 50% of funds on behalf of all eligible schools in the district and makes it 25%. And it requires, rather than authorizes MSDE to adopt policies and procedures to carry out the section, and requires MSDE to adopt regulations by December 1/25 instead of July 1/26. With regard to the Grow Your Own program, it strikes MSDE's consultation with the national nonprofit entity to require consultation with local school systems, requires MSDE to develop a guide on the best practices for the design, implementation, and evaluation of the program, requires MSDE to develop a program metrics in consultation with local school systems and the AIB, strikes changes that require awarding of a grant to collaboratives for employees of a local school system to complete a pathway to teacher licensure, and restores that to completion of an educator preparation program at an institution of higher education. Further, it requires awarding of grants to IHEs in the state. It strikes new language prioritizing grants to collaboratives that partner with IHEs that offer to negotiate lower tuition costs for teacher candidates. And her last proposed change would be to restore language requiring a teacher candidate to perform a service obligation to teach at a high needs school or in a grade level, which has a shortage versus content areas with shortages of qualified teachers. Kind of more in the weedy.
I don't see a motion from the spot. Is there any motion on the table? Right. Okay, so we don't have any motion on the table on this one, so let's move to the next.
That's it. That will be
Okay,
the
that's
end.
it. Okay, guys, let's see if a couple more members show up. If not, I'm specifically looking for Senators Hester and Nattar, and we'll make an executive decision here. We're currently missing 5 senators. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 plus 1 here. So let's see if we can get some additional people here, and then we'll make a decision on the action forward. It's a lot here, did a lot today. And so let's give it 5 minutes. We need Senator Hester back here. Thank you. I really appreciate the Governor's Office and everybody else here today. It was a long voting session, longer than I think we anticipated, but on one bill. Okay, guys, back in voting mode here on, and I should add, we have in our possession both the Senate Bill 429 as well as the House bill. So if we do take action on the Senate bill, we also want to move to conform the House bill to the Senate bill. Yeah. So we took action on a bunch of amendments. We didn't take some. Is there a motion on the table on Senate Bill 429 as amended? Okay, Senator Augustine has moved Senate Bill 429 as amended. A second from Senator Watson. We shall take a roll call.
All right, Senator Augustine? Yes. Senator Augustine, yes. Senator Gallion? No. Senator Gallion, no. Senator Watson? Yes. Senator Watson, yes. Senator Attar? Yes. Senator Attar, yes. Senator Brooks? Yes. Senator Brooks, yes. Senator Carozza? No. Senator Carozza, no. Senator Hester?
Yes, to the caveat that I'll be working on amendment for the floor.
Senator Hester, yes. Senator Washington?
I abstain.
Senator Washington abstains. Senator Feldman?
Senator Feldman votes yes. The bill passes 6-2 with one abstention from Senator Washington, 2 nays from Gallion and Carozza. And that, and then now we have to take action on the, what's the House bill number? 504. 504. Will somebody move to conform the House bill to the Senate bill?
House Bill 504 to the Senate bill.
Okay, Senator Augustine moves to conform the bills. Senator Watson second. Okay, let's just do another roll call.
All right, Senator Augustine?
Yes.
Senator Augustine, yes. Senator Gallion?
No.
Senator Gallion, no. Senator Watson? Yes. Senator Watson, yes. Senator Attar? Yes. Senator Attar, yes. Senator Brooks?
Yes.
Senator Brooks, yes. Senator Carozza? No. Senator Carozza, no. Senator Hester? Yes. Senator Hester, yes. Senator Washington? Senator Washington abstains, and Senator Feldman?
Yes, so that also carries 6-2 with one abstention, and that completes our work for today, guys. It's a long day. Enjoy your evening.
And the committee dinner is tomorrow.
Oh, yes.